Yeah, cool.
Cool. We're color coordinated. Cool.
We are color coordinated.
And also like a similar vibe. Like maybe this is like an NBJ Summit vibe. Like we're in our button downs. But we did want to take this opportunity to, first of all, my lovely co-host, is still in Spain. So hi, Adrian.
Poor Adrian. Hola, Adrian.
Still having tapas and good wine, Adrian. Ask her about it when she returned to Annapolis. But I want to have Bill, who is NBJ Summit co-chair and leads our Nutrition Business Journal business. Many of you have connected with Bill either in person or on the podcast or through his work at NBJ. But we want to talk about some of the top takeaways from the event. And if you have any questions about the event, please do reach out to us, and we will have it again next year in July.
We'll have our 30th next year.
This episode is brought to you by Newbies. If you've got a picky eater, this one's for you. We didn't set out to build a brand. We set out to solve snacking for our family and friends. So Newbies had to be the best. Real nutrition and real convenience in a little 125 milliliter pouch made for small hands and lunchboxes, with flavors picky eaters actually finish. And Newbies Plus, for all of us big kids, is now plant-based. Made for our family and yours and ready for your shelf. Learn more at nusante.com. That's Nusante with a G.
Anyways, okay, Bill, so you kicked it off, told a little bit about the theme. I was really excited about the theme. And like you said, that piece of designing your business. So some of my opening remarks were really centered around how do you truly embrace differentiation, not just as a marketing exercise, but really as a leadership discipline. So all of the decisions that you make as a business should be centered around who you are as a company and what it is that you do differently. We know that wellness and nutrition and dietary supplements is a very crowded space now. It's fast growing. There's tons of opportunity and it's crowded. And so to really lean into those things that make you unique, your unique science, your relationships and partnerships, how you show up both within your company, but also in the overall marketplace. And I just got excited about that. Even thinking about like our business, Bill, just getting like, we can often say like what it is that we do that makes us special, what it is that's unique, but how often do we really make all of our decisions in a way that's going to reinforce that differentiator? So I don't know. I just had some good food for thought that came out of it for me of like, we need to like really lean into those areas that make us unique.
Yeah, I mean, strategy kind of is the centerpiece of that whole thing, or design maybe. I mean, those are maybe the two different ways of saying the same thing, right? As you look at the science, which is probably a lot of what's behind your storytelling, and then your storytelling, and then all of that is your differentiation, and then how do you design that or strategize around that? And we could talk about that all day. It is good stuff.
We might all catch you after this. We could keep chatting about it, but we have a lot to cover on here. So that was our theme. We'll talk about that more in our content and upcoming conversations. But as it relates to the supplement industry in particular, Bill and Erica Kraft, who is just recently our guest on The Naturalist, talking about the condition-specific report, one of NBJ's big reports. But you guys talked about some of the big things that are happening in the industry, particularly around a channel that is going to take over as the top channel for dietary supplements. And what is that?
That channel is e-commerce. And I mean, e-commerce has been the fastest growing channel for a while, but not too long ago, it was the third largest channel. And then it was the second largest channel. And it's about to become, if our predictions are accurate, by 2026, we'll close 2026 saying it's the largest channel for 2026. Now, that probably would have happened maybe not this year, maybe next year anyway, but part of this is that we started tracking social commerce for 2025. So we put out a report earlier this year, the social commerce report, which the long and short of it is really TikTok Shop is really what we're talking about, which added $1 billion. And we made that we kept, at least for now, social commerce as a subset of e-commerce. And so it lifted that whole channel by $1 billion, a kind of an artificial lift all at once in 2025. And but then organic growth on both of those, like both of those, e-commerce and the sub-channel of social commerce, for the coming years. And social commerce is growing faster than anything. E-commerce is a strong grower too.
So I think it's really important that we focus on that for a second, because when we look at our theme of differentiation and those pillars that we're talking about around science and quality and experience, like so much of that needs to be preserved in this e-commerce and particularly social commerce space. We had a panel where we talked very specifically about TikTok Shop. And so I'd like to stop there for a second. And first of all, define social commerce, because we got a question. I don't know if you remember this, Bill, but we got a question at the summit that pointed to the fact that people are a little confused about just like social media, right, as a marketing tool, and then social media actually as a sales channel. So can you define what that means, social commerce?
I can define what it means for NBJ, for our data model, because it was a tough choice. You could define social commerce as any commerce driven by social media. Someone's on you see something on Instagram, you're like, that looks awesome. You go to Amazon and you buy it. You could define that as social commerce. We chose not to align it with the way, and there are some asterisks on this, but for the most part within our model, it's where, when you get out that no card with those 16 digits on, where are you plugging that in? Are you plugging that in on TikTok Shop? Well, I shouldn't start with that, but are you handing it to the cashier, or are you scanning it at the store? What are you doing? Where is the transaction taking place? And that's the definition we chose at NBJ. So even TikTok, take off the word shop, TikTok that drives sales to Amazon, which is a huge phenomenon. And TikTok and Amazon both love that. Amazon so far loves TikTok, right? If that transaction's happening on Amazon, that's e-commerce. If someone runs into Costco and buys it because of something they saw, that's going to be brick and mortar. But so we're just saying if it transacts on TikTok Shop, that's social commerce.
And on our panel, we had an influencer, Lala Milan, who is great, who is sort of like my influencer bestie, just saying. We were talking over the weekend after the event, but she's great. Super funny, super sharp, and, talks about how she works with companies on there. And just so like people know, if you're a brand and you're on TikTok Shop and you're working with influencers, those influencers are selling a ton of product and they're getting commission off of. So it really does make sense as a true sales channel, right? And it is very different, as you pointed out, from just partnering with an influencer or a content creator on social media to raise awareness and market your product and drive to another channel. But the fact that it's actually happening there and the relationship is a commercial one on a whole other level, often, and I think always tied to commission for those creators?
Well, there are a lot of challenges, I think, especially for legacy brands. I mean, fear is one of them, right? There's and just figuring out how to crack that nut. But some brands and some large legacy brands with, dozens of SKUs have figured it out and have done really well on that. But it's, I think it's easier for these digital native brands who have one product with one mission. Like, we created this product because our daughter has this issue or whatever, and we're selling it on, they might launch on Amazon, but going to TikTok Shop is a pretty easy move, and they can work with the influencers, and the closer you are to that culture, the easier it's going to be. And the more enmeshed you are in traditional brick and mortar, I think it feels more like an uphill, I don't want to say battle. I don't know if it's a battle, but there's just a lot to overcome. And there were, I think the thing we heard over and over and over again was just regulatory concerns. Like, who are these people? And
right.
What are they saying? And what's my liability around this?
And TikTok Shop, who was there and was on my panel, was really open to the types of conversations that I think the supplement industry has been having with Amazon for a long time, and starting to see some progress there around how our products and claims and messaging and all of it, how is that policed in these different environments? And TikTok Shop was great in saying, here's what we're doing to help reinforce those standards and quality and integrity, but here's where we still need to go, and how do we partner with the industry on that. And then to your point, Bill, too, around just the challenges of being a legacy brand, or, which is of course unique from a digitally native brand. I had another panel that was all about channel strategy and how you stand out in these different environments. But the thing that really stood out to me on that panel, and just in conversations with companies in general, is that, there's no one size fits all approach to channel strategy. But I think overall brands are recognizing that they need to be where their consumers are, and their consumers are all over the place. So now it's really not only about showing up in the right ways in different retail channels, but managing those channel dynamics and relationships, and making sure that you're supporting your retail partners in those different environments. Because it used to be like, oh, if you're a natural channel, you're not going mass. And if you're, launching online, your ultimate goal is to get here. And it's just not like that anymore. Everyone's journey is a little bit different. Natural Foods Merchandiser has been the trusted way to reach retail decision makers in the $300 billion plus natural products industry for nearly 5 decades. Our readers don't just browse. 92% turn to NFM to discover new products and trends. 82% engage with our content weekly or more, and 78% interact across multiple platforms. With 15,000 print and 50,000 digital subscribers, including category managers, buyers, store owners, wholesalers, and distributors, NFM is the daily resource that shapes purchasing decisions and drives industry growth. Subscribe today, or to be included in the magazine, email newbusiness@newhope.com.
Yeah. And, one of the key takeaways from TikTok, and I don't want to drink the TikTok Shop Kool-Aid much here. They were there and they had a compelling story. But one point they made, and it's pretty statistically sound, is no matter who you are, your customers are on TikTok Shop. End of discussion, right? So any brand that's out there saying, I don't know if that's not really our customer, it's like, well, with whatever, with 200 million people shopping on TikTok Shop, chances are your customer's one of those people, And so there might be some truth to, it's more relevant for some brands than other. Of course, that's true, but they made a really good point. And so did our friends at NetRush. We did a workshop with them on Thursday. We did a couple of breakout sessions. We called them Mindshare working groups, and had a couple of other influencers on there, and Jason Tsai from TikTok Shop was in that room too. And really just, the numbers are compelling, your customers probably are on TikTok Shop. And it's not a strategy that's going to be better next year or the year after that. Get in there now is their big message.
Yeah, and there's a lot of learnings. So too are there a lot of learnings in the practitioner channel, which NBJ has been covering a lot of. And I want to shift gears a little bit from some of this channel strategy stuff as it relates to e-com and TikTok Shop, and move into practitioner space and what we're seeing there, because our final day of the summit, I thought, was fascinating. And Bill, you were introducing a lot and moderating some of those sessions where we really talked about AI, practitioner, personalization, what's gone wrong, where we need to go from here. What were some of your top takeaways around that really massive and sometimes unruly topic that we have around, let's focus in on AI and personalization right now?
AI and, I want to say something about practitioner channel first, because that's another area where we've done some redefining within the NBJ model. Historically, we've identified the practitioner brands, like some leading brands. We can name them and say, okay, what do we estimate their revenues or know their revenues to be, and what do we project is going to happen over the next few years? And that's our practitioner channel. And to follow that same logic that I explained a few minutes ago about social commerce, It's not really the practitioner channel if it's just because it's that brand. We need to look at where it's transacting. So we redefined that channel and we said, we don't care if you're a practitioner or brand, we care if you're selling through practitioners. And that includes online dispensaries like FullScript and things like that, or through a gated website of your own. But it doesn't include Amazon. It doesn't include iHerb or Pure Formulas. And so when we redefine it that way, we reduce the size of that channel by 27.4%, a pretty significant shrinking of that channel. So while e-commerce got this lift from TikTok Shop, practitioner got this drop from we have to send. Actually, that contributed to the growth of e-commerce as well. We moved some of those sales over to e-commerce. And this is a really important point for practitioner brands, is that where do you sell? Some are staunchly sticking to the legacy definition of practitioner. It's like, no, we don't sell on Amazon. That waters down the value proposition. That's not what we do. And then a lot of them, though, are saying, okay, if you don't sell on Amazon, you're dead, that's where, Amazon is, I was told some years ago, don't quote me on this, but it's the number one product search engine. People that aren't searching for information on products on Google, they're searching on Amazon. Then you get there, no matter where you plan on buying. So you kind of have to be on Amazon. So it's quite a conundrum for these practitioner brands, and it has changed the landscape, and it has put at risk the credibility of some of these practitioner brands. Will they maintain the top quality science and rigor through their formulation? And, will they be able to, and even if they do, will they be able to maintain that credibility as they sell on Amazon? I might be getting a bit in the weeds. This is a risk we take when we invite me on here. But that's one of the key things happening in the practitioner
We're willing to take the risk time and time again, Bill. We are taking the risk, and I will take the risk again. You'll be invited back even after that. Just kidding. That was very interesting. I'm glad that you defined the practitioner channel and one of the tensions that's existing there around the legacy brands and some of the issues around maintaining that credibility. And the reason that I went into AI and personalization is because one of my big takeaways is that space is where some of the greatest advancements in personalization and truly using human data in the way that it should be to deliver more personalized experiences and ultimately outcomes around dietary supplements. That's happening in the practitioner space. I think that makes sense. And arguably, that's the only channel where it can be done truly effectively. Is that too much? Did I go too far with that statement?
Well, the care of model. Hey, wait, hold on. Stay with me. Bayer did close that after buying them. So it's a challenging model, but I think it's theoretically still a good model. And I think AI can increasingly help that. But I think, especially with things like Function Health out there, people are getting more and more comfortable sending in their fluids and getting biometrics as part of the equation. But I think the really successful model for personalization is going to be the meeting place of those biometrics, but AI tools that can make assumptions. I had a fascinating conversation it was Afif Ghannoum when he was still leading Biome, and it was really interesting. And this was several years ago, but it feels like it's still on the horizon. After they got biometrics from tens of thousands of people, and you send in your biometrics, but you also fill out a quiz saying, here's what I'm experiencing. I feel this way. I feel that. I feel this. At some point, Jessica, you can just take someone's quiz and say, okay, if you're having these symptoms, if you're feeling these ways, we now can say that, okay, that aligns with the biometrics of this group of people. And AI can make a good guess that that's probably what's going on in your physiology, even without sending in your whatever fluids or solids that, are called upon for true personalization. So I think even outside of practitioner, in other words, I think there can be a very sophisticated AI tool interacting with some biometrics can make some really interesting personalization calls. I mean, personalized nutrition has been right around the corner for just about as long as I've been here. We were writing about it in 2017, 2018, and I feel like it's still right around the corner. So
I agree. And I came out of the final day of the summit feeling like it might not be around the corner. I think it's here, and it's just figuring out which models are most successful in doing right by the human data that I think more and more consumers are just capturing. I think that the diagnostic tools and the wearables that are available to people now has become so mainstream that people are capturing their data, and now they need to find the right partners and the right companies to do something with that. So I think there was a level of responsibility, awareness of the responsibility that comes with that I felt like the discussions on final day of the summit centered around got me excited, because when we look at people's experiences with personalization, and that could be anything from a personalized marketing message to a personalized product or health experience, they feel, I think it's like 2/3 of consumers feel like it's either been inaccurate or it's felt invasive. It hasn't been done right. So I think this next generation of leaders, whether it be Dr. Darshan Shah from Next Health or Onyx, who we had on stage, have to nail it. And I think they are nailing it. And that's what turn this ship around, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, Next Health is doing amazing things. Dave Asprey's company is opening clinics around the country, and that, there's a lot of, and again, Function Health online. I mean, and then all the wearables, like you say. And I think people are ready, and I might be projecting. I've always been a little reluctant to do a wearable until someone can actually tell me what to do with that data. I always say, I can tell you I didn't sleep well last night. I don't need a device to tell me that. But
I will tell you that I am not going to start with wearables again until I no longer have an infant. I will not be tracking my sleep until
your sleep. Yeah.
That is
right. But it'll just make you mad, right? It's like, I know. Okay.
Yes, I also mentioned Onyx. Pretty cool company. You led a panel with the founder.
Pretty cutting edge technology. I think I heard the term small language model. It's different than a large language model. I mean, the language is just as large if we're going to be technical. But what they do is they take practitioners, what I think it is is like iTunes compared to Napster. Right. Albums, we lost albums to the internet, and, so then Napster, you can get this stuff for free, and that doesn't really work for the artist. And then, what about a subscription basis? And there's some controls around what you can access and how you access it. And then there's some pay going to the artist. And so I think that's not super accurate, and what that misses is the benefit to the user. But basically, practitioners can go in there and upload whatever information they want to be in the model, and then patients can come in and have use conversational AI to work with that practitioner. And then that practitioner does get pay for that time, but they're not using, it gets a little complicated, but I think I've made the point here. It's, so it's a small language model because it's not just open domain AI where ChatGPT is going to go out and find you an answer, whether it's right or not. This is going to say, okay, according to the practitioner you feel like you're talking to, here's the information you need to know.
And I did get in there. Have you been in there? I
haven't been in there, no.
I was in there, and it definitely is a different experience as a user. We were all users of AI and whatever AI you're using. It's very different because you are interacting with the practitioner AI, and eventually you would then be interacting with the practitioner. I think at some point it converts over to the real person, not the AI of that. But it does feel like there's just more parameters around it. You are finding a practitioner who's kind of ethos you're aligned with and who has the expertise in the area that you're interested in. So I've really enjoyed it, dabbling in there, and I plan to continue to use it. And I think that, is a very interesting use case of AI.
And I think, this is in healthcare, but that model can exist in all over the place. I think I'm sure people are working on it in other industries as well, where there's a single or a group of people that have an expertise, and you want to tap into that with AI without tapping into everything anyone has ever claimed on the internet.
So there may be a time when those who were at the NBJ Summit are going and having a consultation with AI Bill and AI Erica.
That's right, yeah. How do you know if this is even me right now?
What if you could discover the next big thing in natural products before it hits mainstream? Imagine being the buyer who took a chance on poppy, or the distributor who took a chance on Siete Foods before they were, everywhere. That's exactly what Utopia Now offers. Utopia Now is the conscious products event where breakthrough discoveries happen. Registration is open now, so head to utopianow.com to secure your spot. The people shaping the industry are going to be in that room, so why not be one of them? Register today, and we'll see you in Denver, August 18th through 20th, 2026. Yes, this year, coming right up. There were some other conversations, of course, about AI. I thought one of the just most refreshing presentations at NBJ Summit was from Jennifer Cohen, who talked about, she is a podcast host and author and influencer, particularly in the fitness space, but she also does leadership work. And she's focused a lot in the past on building healthy habits. And she just does great work in that space. But this presentation that she gave was all about the power of likability. And I actually heard a lot of people talking about that, business leaders in the room being like, oh yeah,
right,
liking
and
me.
it's particularly pertinent. Well, I guess that's why you brought it up now in the face of AI, and right, how important human connection is,
And she talked about AI for efficiency, absolutely, but there are these key areas, whether it be critical thinking or relationship building, where you cannot rely on AI. And in fact, it could actually be harmful or detrimental. And I think trust is one of those areas, and certainly likability.
Yeah. And for leaders in the room, for now we're working with people, right? As leaders, as employees who are, we're reporting to someone, almost everyone is, and we have folks reporting to us quite likely, and and then we have peers and all of this, and so I think understanding that likability, never mind taking it outside of the walls of the company, and now we're talking about influencers and this back to the storytelling, and I think in the natural products industry, that's kind of baked in. There's such a story behind so many of the brands showing up on the shelves of, or the aisles of Expo, right? That almost every brand has a story. Here's why this product is needed in a sea of overly processed foods or whatever, and it sort of ties into the likability and the human piece there.
And a very human-centric industry. And I know this is a very just simple takeaway, but I came out of NBJ Summit with even greater appreciation for the humanity behind the products, the industry. It's all centered around human health, right? That's why we exist and why we do what we do. And if you look at all of the different kind of tentacles of that, it's farmers, it's ingredient suppliers, it's scientists, it's all of these different leaders at the summit that are coming together to say, here's the work that we are doing to support the end user of our products, which is the consumer, and there's nothing more human than health. And so as we looked at technologies and innovations and science and certainly AI, it all came back to the people. And so in that room, seeing how people connect with one another as a way to do better business felt really strong and profound, and is always a good reminder. We get that at all of our events, but I think you're absolutely right. This industry exists because we want people to thrive.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, that brings me back to TikTok. It's funny that people are like, what was NBJ Summit about this year? It was about a lot of things, but I feel like the edgy, the cutting edge topics were peptides, AI, and TikTok shop, and the TikTok shop thing. And like we're just about 2 weeks ago today ish, New York Times released that story that was like, blew my mind, showing influencers that are AI generated. And I just had no idea. I'm like, my mind's blown every day by AI. It's like, oh my God, you would not know that those weren't real people. But I think it also, and so that's another reason to be afraid of TikTok shop. It's like, well, I don't want to go on, I don't want to be on there. But the influencers that are doing it credibly and doing it with integrity get that storytelling piece, and they get that likability. I mean, it's all about likability. That's how you get followers. And so at least the three creators that we had on site last week, it really gave me hope. It's like, okay, there's all that other stuff going on, but these are people who really want to move forward. And it's a sales team, and so it really, in a weird way, it brings us right back to that human connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And Bill, I think you also touched on something else that the industry, the supplement and nutrition industry is facing right now, which is just like misinformation, right? There is just a whole ocean of misinformation out there. Some of it is, manufactured through AI. Some of it is just misinformation through word of mouth or even different channels. And so I think that that's where our theme came back in really strong, which was like, okay, when there's so much opportunity, but we recognize that not every company or every leader is doing it the right way, how can you navigate the opportunity in a way that, again, I come back to authenticity and accuracy, precision in what you do. And those things felt really important. And I think people left feeling like, okay, we are part of a group of people that are committed to paving the way, navigating all this stuff, but staying true to the core values that we have as a company. And AI isn't the only culprit there. I mean, there were people on stage saying, hey, like, actually, AI generated content can be more accurate and more reliable, which I think was a moment for a lot of people of like, oh yeah, like, let's not always the problem.
I think that way forward for brands, particularly, is going to be very complicated. If you keep your eye on the ball of integrity and honesty and accuracy and science, that's great. But it's slippery, but it was Max Mikolenko, the CEO and co-founder of Snap Supplements. So he made such a good point, because I watched that New York Times thing and I'm like, FTC has to stop this. We can't have AI generated content selling stuff, and it's like, okay, wait, nothing's ever that simple. And, the point Max made was that just because it's AI generated doesn't mean it's false or misleading or fraudulent. And then the flip side of that, I don't know if he made this point, but just because that's a human doesn't make it legit, right? And even in the aisles of a store, a lot of the retailers do such a good job training their staff. Here's what you can say. Here's what you can't say. And at the end of the day, you just have to trust, those people in your aisles, they're saying the right things. Let's hope that's true, So it's slippery in all the channels.
Yes. And how great that we have a forum to talk about all of that. We did get into some of just like the nitty gritty industry talk. We had a regulatory panel as well. We, as I had mentioned, had your state of the industry. Were there other takeaways for you, Bill, specifically as it relates to like where we are now in the supplement and nutrition space and things that leaders of companies should be thinking about for the future?
I don't know. I feel like we've covered it. The thing that I've been talking to most people about is the TikTok shop thing, just because I think that was the biggest learning curve for me personally. But I always like William Hood is a regular on stage for us talking about the M&A environment, and there's a lot going on there. And I think all of these, whether we're talking about the practitioner channel or TikTok shop, whether we're talking about consumer acquisition or getting acquired, as a company, I think it boils down to the same few things, like really focusing on why you're in business, what's the nugget there, and telling that story with integrity. And telling it with integrity means backing it with integrity too, where available, is there science to make true what you say is true? And so I feel like all of those things point to the same thing. How are we going to handle peptides as they come in from a regulatory standpoint? And it's a matter, I think, of staying curious and staying open, but also staying focused on like what is your why for being in this industry and starting this company or being in the company you're in.
Yeah, I could not agree more, Bill. And you said, because you brought up peptides and a couple of other areas that we've talked about for years at the summit. The summit is also the place to figure out what is that next disruptor and how do we mobilize around it to ensure that it's done the right way. So I also left William Hood's session because he talked a lot about those disruptive companies that have been acquired in recent years. And as you pointed to, dietary supplements has kind of been a bright spot in the investment landscape for a long time. I'm eager over the next, 6-12 months to see this next generation of disruptive companies and what we can learn from them. In many cases, what to do, but in some cases, what not to do. So I feel like NBJ Summit always gives us a really great insider look at what's next.
Yeah. And, and there's always something out there. Ooh, psychedelics. They're getting really close to the supplement industry. Like, what's going to happen? Are they going to compromise the credibility of the industry? Peptides, all these things. And there's just, boy, it requires leaders to be agile, I think, in their thinking. But a key takeaway for me is don't dig your heels in and say it's always been this way, this is the right way, because things are moving fast right now. And I don't think that's going to work out very well.
I agree. And my big takeaway is take a minute to be with your team and sit with what you do and the work that you do and get back to what is it that's uniquely us? Why do we stand out? And how can we do more of that? And I can't wait to see what the companies who were at the event and others just in our industry, how they show up in new ways, given, Bill, what you said, this fast moving environment and how they just, how they soar. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Be sure to rate, subscribe, and reach out to either of us if you want more information about the NBJ Summit. We had lots of first timers there this year, and we know we'll have many more next year. So if you're a leader in the nutrition industry, we would love to get to know you. And thank you, Bill.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. I always loved being on the Naturalist. And salud to Adrian. Is that what they say in Spain? Do they say salud? Well, she can correct me. Then we'll know if she watched or not.